So as you guys might know by now, Google released their image generator model called Nano Pro, which is a very advanced image generation model which can take a prompt and create it into an image, creating an image into a different image or multiple images, combining them into a single image. I have found multiple use cases for this, such as creating ads or posting stuff on LinkedIn, like infographics. And today I want to focus on how you can use this advanced model to grab any YouTube video you want and create it into a really robust and professional infographic and posting it directly into LinkedIn. If you don't know me, my name is Josue and I've been building AI and automation systems for about a year and a half now. And I've decided to create a YouTube channel in which I'm sharing all the tools that I'm learning in different use cases while breaking down this system and providing you with all the resources you need so that you can do as well. And so as I mentioned, we're going to be grabbing YouTube videos and creating infographics from them. And here are just a couple examples. So let's dive into how you can set this up. So right here's the system. And before we dive into how everything is set up, I want to give you guys a quick top view of what's going on in here. So we're starting off by gathering the information such as the YouTube video link, as well as some extra details that we want to make sure that the model emphasizes in our infographic. And we're grabbing those details using a form. This keeping it very simple. We're just using an NN form. Then using Apify, which is a scraper that allows us to scrape basically the transcript from a YouTube video. We're getting the transcript from that specific YouTube video. Then we're passing it through a code node that basically formats it in a way that we can send it to an LLM such as OpenAI, so that we can generate a prompt for an infographic. We're using AI to generate a prompt for a different AI model that's going to be the image model. And this is because we want to make sure that we're giving it a structured prompt to get the best output possible. That's the first section. And the second section is going to be generating the infographic, in which we're going to be using Google Nano Pro. We're going to be using it through Key AI, which I'm going to dive in a little deeper in here in a bit. Then we're going to be writing the caption for that LinkedIn post that's going to go along with the infographic. And finally, we're going to be posting it into LinkedIn. So why don't I go ahead and run this really quick? I'm just going to disconnect this so I don't post it into my LinkedIn. And I'm going to be providing here a YouTube link, which is going to be for this video right here. This is a video by Cole Hastings about the AI bubble that is about to burst. So let me copy the link and I'm just going to paste it back here in the form. And then as you can see, you're going to be able to provide any special instructions. So I'm just going to say, please highlight what's the AI bubble, what are the specifics about it, and what are the risks that are currently being shown. Also mention the companies that are involved in it. So we're going to hit submit. And as you can see, it's going to start running right away. We're going to give this a minute and then I'm going to show you guys what the result looks like. So it looks like it's done running now. Let's take a look over here. And I'm going to click on view. And this is what we get straight out the door from the Nano Pro model using the prompt that the other AI step provided. As you can see, it looks very professional. It looks like it was made by a human. Like it even gets the logos for the different companies that are involved. It has a nice layout, different sections of it, as what is the AI bubble, the key player specifics. And this is stuff that was discussed in the video specifically, and also what I told the model to focus on in that form. And so if I look at the caption that was written, as you can see, we're going to see it raw in here, but this is the caption that's going to go along that infographic when we post it into LinkedIn. So let's dive in. So first of all, we have the form, very simple form. We just have the form title in here, Nano Pro infographic generator, and we have two different fields. One is going to be YouTube link as an element type text, which is going to be required. We also have special instructions, also type text, which is also going to be required. It's two fields, simple. And now we have an Apify step. And if you look up Apify in your different notes, you're going to see there's some native integrations inside N8N, which is really nice. And we're going to be using this run actor and get dataset node, which is going to allow us to send the YouTube URL to Apify, have it scrape it, and then give us back that transcript. So if I look into it, this is how I get the transcript over here. As you see, it's in a format in which each sentence has its start and duration. We don't really want it like this. We want it all combined together, which is why we're going to use the next code node. But let me dive into how you can set this up really quick. So first off, setting up your credentials. So you want to go into Apify, and this is what it looks like. Like I said, it's a marketplace for different scrapers. So you can have like a TikTok scraper, a Google Maps scraper, Instagram scraper. There's tons of scrapers, but we're going to be using one that scrapes the transcript out of a YouTube video. So you're going to log in, and this is what it looks for me because I've been running it already. But just to quickly show you, this is the scraper that we're going to be using, specifically YouTube transcript scraper. You got to make sure that you're using this one because otherwise your output might come out differently. But now how to set up your API key, you want to go into settings, then API and integrations. You're going to be able to create a token here. You're going to give it a description, and it's just going to show you an API token. So, and you're going to hit copy, come back in here, create a new credential, paste it in there, give it a name, and save it. I've already done that. Then the resource, actor, operation, run an actor and get dataset. That's simply what the node is. Then our actor source. This is going to depend. If you haven't run this before, then it's not going to appear in your list. So you want to click on recently used actors, and then from URL, And what you want to do is go into that specific actor that I showed, or scraper, which is this one, and you're going to copy this and you're going to paste it in here. And so if we look at the scraper, you can see that we can also run it through Apify itself. If you see here, it says input. If I were to click JSON, this is going to be the request that we're going to be sending to the scraper. So in this case, it's just one JSON object called video URL that contains the URL of the YouTube video. If I were to hit start, it would run it inside Apify, and then it will give me my results back also inside Apify, but we're doing it through their API so that we can do it inside N8N. This is what we're doing here. And so the input JSON, as I mentioned, video URL, and then we're going to have a video link. What I'm doing is I'm grabbing the link from the on-form submission node and I'm just dragging it inside the quotations of the object. So when I hit run, this basically sends the URL to the scraper. The scraper then processes it, then gives me back the transcript. This is how we get it. Now we're moving on to the code node over here. As you see, it's very simple. I wrote this using Claude, and basically what I did was copied all this, or a section of it. I gave it to Claude AI and I told it to generate a code that was going to combine all the text, and that's what it does. So it looks very simple, but just so you guys are aware, you can use tools like Claude in order to create code nodes to manipulate the data inside your automations. In this case, this is what the combined text looks like. Then we're going to have an AI step. And so if you look up OpenAI in your nodes, you're going to see that there's a step for messaging model. This is what you want to use. You want to connect your credential. If you don't know how to connect your credential, you want to go into platform.openai.com. You're going to log in. Then you want to go into API keys. And then you're going to hit create a new key. You're going to give that a name. It's going to give you a key very similar to what Apify does. You want to go back in here, paste your API key, give it a name, hit save. I've already done that. Then, like I said, our operation is going to be message a model. The model we want to be using is going to be 4.1 mini. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to go back to the other node. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be generating the prompt for Nano Banana. So when you're doing a message a model step, you're going to have the options to choose different messages. And all of these messages are going to be sent all together to the model so that it can then generate a response to us. This is pretty much your prompt, but you're able to send multiple prompts separately with different roles. So a good rule of thumb is always use your first prompt as a system prompt, which gives the AI a general idea of what they're going to be doing. As you see, it's just one sentence. You're an intelligent image prompting assistant for infographics. Then our next prompt is also going to be a type text, but in this case, we're going to be using the role user. This is where our main prompt is going to be, our main instructions. Here's the prompt. It's a little bit lengthy, but I also generated it using Claude. I told it what I was looking for. I provided it a couple examples and it came back with this prompt, but it's very simple. We have a main idea of what the task is. So it will be receiving two different inputs, which is the video transcript and the special user instructions. Then its instructions are going to be analyzing the content, incorporating user instructions, and generating the image prompt. Then Claude decided to give it a specific output format. In this case, it includes a title, style, layout, color scheme, content sections, visual elements, etc., and some specific important guidelines that are down here. I'm going to be leaving a link down below where you're going to be able to find the blueprint to this specific automation, which is already going to include the prompts for all your AI steps. So no need to worry about that. And then we need to provide a third prompt, which is going to be role user as well. But this is just going to be our inputs. So I'm passing in the YouTube transcript, which I'm grabbing from the previous code node, pasting it in there, then doing the same thing with the user instructions, but this time I'm passing them from the form. So just dragging and dropping it in there. And so with that, the results you're going to be getting is going to be a prompt for your infographic. As you see in here, is create an infographic with the following specifications, the AI bubble explain. It gives it the style and all sorts of other elements. So that's good. Now we're going to be moving into generating the infographic. So whenever you're generating the infographic, we're going to be using a platform called Key AI. So this is Key AI right here. And basically what it is a marketplace for different sorts of models. They got video models like VO3 or like Sora 2, but they also have image generation models like Google Gemini Pro. And the reason why we're not doing it directly through like the Gemini interface or through Google Studio is because this is cheaper and you can do it through API as well. So if I look into API market, right here is Nano Banana Pro. I'm going to click on that. You can see that we're able to use the model through their interface or through their playground. And you just provide an input, you can provide an image, you can edit the aspect ratio, resolution, and output format, and it's going to give it to you here on the right side. But note that we don't want to do it through their interface. We want to do it inside of N8N, which is why we're going to be using their API. So if I click here on API, you're going to see the documentation on how you can use this through N8N. If you don't know what an API is, it's basically a way for us to communicate different platforms together and be able to call it from an external third-party platform, in this case, N8N. And their endpoints is the different actions that we can use. So in this case, we have two endpoints, which is very simple. We have a create a task endpoint, which basically means starting up the model once we give it the input. And then we have a query task, which is basically after creating the task, asking the model if it's done generating it. So if you think about it, if we're creating a task, we want to basically loop over querying a task over and over again until we get a success or until the model says, we have completed your task, here's your image. So that's what we're going to be doing inside N8N. And if you look up here in the different AI nodes and you search up Key AI, You can see that there's nothing in there, which is why we have to do it through an HTTP request and user API documentation. So this is what I'm doing here in creating an image. To make things very simple, you're going to go into the documentation, and then if you scroll down, you're going to see a request example for creating a task. And what you want to do is you want to copy this. Make sure you're in curl and copy it. Then I'm going to do it from scratch just to show you guys. So you're going to search up HTTP request, and then you're going to import curl. You're going to paste that in there, hit import, and boom, everything gets filled up for you. There's just a couple things that you want to change in here, such as your prompt and also your authorization or API key, which I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So first off, the method is going to be post. The URL is going to be the created task endpoint. And then you see that in the headers, when we're sending headers, we're sending a name and a value. A name is going to be authorization, and a value is going to be bearer and your API key. You would basically grab your API key and paste it in there, but there's a simpler way to do this so that you don't have to repeat this every single time. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to open the one that I already have set up. And as you're going to see in here, in authentication, instead of saying none, I select the generic credential type, then header auth, and then I already have my API key saved inside an init. So for you, if you've never set this up before, you're going to create a new credential. And what you're going to be doing here is just going to be giving that those values of authorization and then bearer your API key and then saving it. So you're going to type authorization, and then down here, you're going to type bearer space, and then you're going to paste your API key. And how do you get your API key? You're going to go back into key. Then here on the left-hand side, go to workspace and API management, and then create a new key. You're going to give this a name, and just as Apify, just as OpenAI, it's going to give you a long string of characters, which is going to be your API key. What you want to do is you want to paste it in here, give it a name such as key, and then your name, save it. And now it's going to appear like this, and you don't have to type it down every single time you want to make a call to key AI. So then we're going to be sending a body. As you saw, this is where our prompt goes. So in this case, the model that we're going to be using is Nano Pro. Our input is going to include a prompt, the aspect ratio, resolution, and output format. So for your prompt, what we're going to do is we're going to be grabbing the prompt that the previous AI step generated, which is just the text over here. See if I put it down here, this is what it looks like. And there's a little problem with this, and it's that we have different spaces that might mess up the JSON call, because JSON has certain limitations when it comes to handling spaces or quotation marks, which is why in order to avoid those errors, what I did over here is I used the function json.stringify, and then inside is where I grab this text and put it in here. So if you read this, json.output 0 content 0 text is the same thing that I have in here. Our aspect ratio 16:9, it gives us the landscape ratio, which is great for infographics. You can play around with this value. Resolution 2K, you can choose 4K, but there's not much of a difference when it comes to infographics. Output format PNG should work fine. And once you run this is what you're going to get. So you're going to get a success and a task ID. The success doesn't mean that the image has been generated. It simply means that the model has started generating the image. And then now is when we need to use the other endpoint, which was querying the task, in order to see if it has been completed or not. So that's what I'm doing over here in get an image. And I'm going to explain the weight right now in a little bit, but let's get into how the get an image works. This is much simpler. As you see, the difference in here is that our method is going to be get. Our URL is going to be pretty much the same besides the endpoint, which is record info. Basically means querying the task. Authentication, it might say none for you, and it might ask you to put it in manually, but since you've saved it already, you're going to click on generic credential type, hit header auth, and then from the list, you're going to look for your API key, which we just set up. Then we're going to be able to send query parameters. We're going to be defining them below. The name is going to be task ID, and then we're going to map from the create an image, the task ID, and it's going to basically check if the task has been generated. Going a little backwards on what the wait does. So say we create an image, then I have this wait because we're going to be waiting 5 seconds before we check to get the image if it has been generated or not. So this is going to give us a state, which is going to be whether or not it has been generated. The state can be success, it can be waiting, it can be generated, it can be fail. And that's why we're using this switch right here as sort of like a filter to make sure that we're only moving on if we have a success. So the way that a switch works is you're able to add different routes. We're going to be adding 4 different routes in this case. In the first route, if the json.data.state, which is just this, and I dragged it in here, is equal to success, we're going to write the caption. But if it's equal to generating or waiting, those 2 options, I grab them and I put them back into the wait. And that's why we have a wait to create that loop. And for both cases, if it's either generating or waiting, we're going to go back to that waiting and check again after 5 seconds. If it's failed, nothing's going to happen. Fail can happen if, for example, you run out of tokens or you've been calling the model too much in a short period of time. That would be a timeout error. But if we have a success, then we're going to get this JSON object called result.json, which includes a URL. And this is the URL of our image. So if I was to copy this and opening it in a new tab, you can see with download something, and if I open it, it's pretty much just the infographic. So we're going to be using that link to pull the infographic inside N8N over here where it says get infographic. But before that, we're going to be writing the caption. So if I open this up, as you see, it's also a message a model node, similar as to the previous one. In this case, our system prompt is simple, just saying your intelligent caption writing assistant for infographics. Then a user role prompt that says all the instructions. I wrote it using Claude as well. This one's a little bit longer because I want the format of my captions to be a little bit different. I want it to be basically short sentences with double spaces and easy to read. So that's why it's a little bit longer, but we have general instructions as the previous one where we said what the inputs are going to be. Basically, we're going to be providing the transcript and the infographic prompt that was used to generate the image. And then using those both inputs, this will focus on creating a body caption that will highly convert by capturing the reader's attention. We have some other guidelines here on like writing and tonality, caption structure, and then we have some important reminders, some examples. All of this was generated again using Claude, so you can do the same, but you're going to be provided with it when I post it in my resources, so no need to worry about that. Then the last step is just going to be providing those inputs, very simple. Also a user prompt. We're given the YouTube transcript and the infographic prompt, mapping those accordingly. So the YouTube transcript is coming from the code and the infographic prompt is coming from the previous AI step. Just pasting those in there. And now with that, we can now download the image and post into LinkedIn. So right here is the image. We're downloading it using an HTTP request. So if you type HTTP, similarly to how we're calling key AI, but in this case, the only thing we're going to be passing as our URL is going to be that URL that we get as an output over here that you saw that I downloaded it straight into my computer. But instead, it's going to download it inside the N8N instance, which gives us the ability to view it inside N8N. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm going back to the get image and grabbing the result.json and I'm pasting it in here. But if you take a look at what I just pasted, which is this down here, it looks like this instead of this. So from this, we need to extract just the URL. And that's why I'm doing this function over here, which is json.parse, putting the object inside index of the array, which is the URL basically. Once we hit run, it gives us in binary, which we can see again through N8N. And now if I connect this into my LinkedIn step, which is creating the post, we can go ahead and post directly into LinkedIn. So you want to connect your credential using OAuth. It might be a little trickier if you're self-hosting your N8N and you might need to create an app inside LinkedIn and give certain permissions. It's a little bit out of the scope of this video, so I'm not going to show you guys how to do it, but I'll be leaving a link down below on how you can set it up. Then resource post, operation create, post as person, and then you want to choose your name. Then the text for that post, we're going to be dragging in the caption that was generated by AI. So the text, this is just what I'm putting in here. As you see, this is the format that I was talking about. And then media category, it's going to be image, and input binary field should be data. So the name of the image, which is data, should match what's down here. And that's going to allow us to post it into LinkedIn. So let me run this from the top and we're going to see how it looks inside my LinkedIn. So there we go. It looks like it has been posted. We'll give that a couple seconds. And now if I go into my LinkedIn and I hit reload, if I scroll down, this is my latest post right here. And this time I provided it a video for Gemini, which was the one I showed in the introduction. And here's the infographic that we get. As you see, very clean and also a very easy to read format of a post. And so with that, you now have a system that will convert any YouTube video into an infographic using Google Nano Banana. I would suggest that you use videos that are informative or that are related to certain news that you think might go well with an infographic. And also providing those special instructions is always important so that you get something closer to what you're looking for. Once again, I will be leaving this blueprint in the description, and if you enjoy this type of videos, please consider subscribing into my channel. I'm going to be posting much more. If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.